Welcome to week 5 of our festive fermentation series. Tonight we're going cheese, and we're going to go with a veggie touch. Now this method you can use for any milk, any cheese making, but tonight, as I said, we're going to go vegetable. Now if you were going completely vegan, you could make a cheese in a brine, like a kimchi brine, a sauerkraut brine, like a well-fermented kimchi brine. This one's been made, this is tiger nut, so we've made it into a tiger nut milk. The tiger nuts were soaked in your kimchi brine for 24 hours, and then they've been blitzed and made into a kimchi tiger nut milk, and then we've strained it out and made a cheese. Now it is pretty soft, and I'll be showing you a process of how that we can firm it up. But I do find that when you do it in a brine, it doesn't get that firm. So you get the really best results. The best starter to use for your cheese making is the milk kefir or kefir, however you want to pronounce it, the little grain. Now we call it a grain, but it's actually like, if you're not familiar with it, it's a little colony or a community of bacteria and yeast. Much stronger than say yogurt, because yogurt only produces bacteria, where this produces yeast, which is very important in cheese making. So there they are. That's what they look like. Aren't they beautiful little babies? They're live. Now they will keep reproducing, but if you are using them in a veggie sauce, you will have to eventually give them back to a mammal sauce so that you get growth with them. So that's all that you do. You leave those out for at least 24 hours, depending on your temperature. If you're in a really hot climate, you can try them at 12 hours. But yes, 24 hours is the general rule, so you can do them like at night, and then the next night they're ready. You'll get the liquid out like that. Now we've got tiger nut, and this has got a little bit of coconut in there as well. So then the next stage, what we're making is we're making a cheese machine, is what I call it. So what you do is you then take, so that gets re-put in, and you just keep on doing that with your liquid that you add to it. So then you'll have that left. So that gets poured into like a muslin or a cheesecloth sieve or a colander, and then you'll let that drip through. And what you'll end up with is you'll end up with whey. So you'll end up with a clear whey at the bottom, which will have dripped through that cloth, and you'll have whey that looks like this. So that's what you'll have at the bottom. You don't get rid of that, because you can actually use that to make more cheese. So that's what we call the whey. So it's like curds and whey, and then the curds are like the liquid. Now that will have gone quite thick, because you've drained out the whey from it. Now if you're using coconut, it has a high fat, and it will separate a little bit, but on refrigeration it'll get a lot firmer. So I've had this out now, so it's not as firm. But you can go on to many more steps. Now if I'm new to you here, and this is your first time, I should introduce myself. It's a bit rude of me. I'm Lenny Stein. I'm the founder of the Gut Academy, and prior to the Gut Academy, it was Fermenting for Life, where we did lots of workshops, and I've been sharing these foods for many decades, and it gives me great pleasure to bring to you tonight the vegan cheese. So this one is made with coconut milk. So you can use just your canned coconut milk, but do use like an organic sauce that doesn't have like lots of additives or anything like that in there, because you've got to be aware of all the fillers that get added to them when we're making cheese. So that's your cheese machine. So then what you can do is you can go even further. So if you wanted to make this firmer, this is exactly the same method as what we do with mammal milk. We would then put it through into like a what we call like a cheese mould, and that will keep it nice and firm, and we'll put something on top to put weight on it. Now if you don't have a cheese mould, you can use one of those bamboo strainers, you know, like what you get to make dumplings in. You can use small ones. I should have grabbed mine out, my apologies, but you can use small ones, or you can use like a big one where you steam your dumplings. They are perfect. So you just put it through, and what that'll do is it'll drip through more whey, but put a weight on because you want to firm it. Now you can dry it. So what you can do is, if you wanted to make it dry and you want to get like a little bit of a firm skin on it, you could put even like a fan going on it, and that will actually dry out that skin for you. So you've got different types of cheese. Now, if you wanted to make a hard cheese, like one that you can grate, well then what you would need to do, you go another process where you put it back into that muslin bag and you hang it. So you hang it like on a broomstick or something and let it drip again for about 12 to 24 hours. And you'll have a really firm cheese then, one that you can grate. So there's so much that you can do with it. Now the whey, you can actually use that, as I said, to make more cheese. So if you were using the whey, you need to heat it. This one needs to be heated. So you need to add some, like in the coconut, the traditional way of making ricotta is from whey. But they used, first of all, it was always used with sheep's milk, because the sheep milk has a higher fat content. Like if you use goat milk, it has a very low fat content. So in the veggie world, coconut has a high fat content. So that's very good if you're going to be making ricotta. So you'll be using that whey, that one that we drip through, but don't refrigerate it. It needs to be used very fast. So within 3 hours of straining it if you want to make ricotta. If you want to make a real killer ricotta and you are making the mammal, like if you're using, say, a sheep's milk, the quicker you can make it, the better. And it does need to be heated, and you do need to add extra milk. So with this coconut one, I've added some coconut cream and some coconut milk. I use fresh coconuts because I live in the tropics. And then I've heated it with the whey, and you need to add something acidic. So you need to add either some lemon juice or some really good apple cider vinegar is the very best. And it'll just stir and it'll form like a killer ricotta. So then you've got that crumbly ricotta cheese, you know, the texture of ricotta cheese. But we need to go a little bit further. So what we do is, once again, we dry it. So we put that ricotta through the same, like the cheese machine with the muslin cloth. We do the same thing, and if you want to hang it, which is what I do with it, because then I make a bocconcini. Well, I've got friends that are cheese connoisseurs, and they tell me that this is as good as a bocconcini, that it doesn't even taste, and you don't get that coconut taste. With the milk kefir, it is the grain of that, the bacteria strains and the yeast strains in there, they are the same as using for any starter culture. It'll make any type of cheese. So that's why it's really the best one to use. So yeah, this is like my bocconcini, and this is just made from the whey, so you can see it's quite solid, and that's with your coconut, and that's very, very, very tasty. So when you make that the green machine, we call it green cheese, and the reason why it's called green cheese is not from the colour, it's because of the softness of it and the freshness of it, really, the fresh. So way back in time, green was fresh, you know, like the fresh grass, the fresh, you know, green, so that's why it was called green. So, you know, like the Man in the Moon, where the cheese was all crumbly. So that's where it comes from, all the little holes, the green cheese. So when you're making that cheese machine, it'll come out nice and soft. So that soft cheese, what are you going to do with that? There's so much you can do with it. One of the perfect marriages for it is fermented garlic. You know, your fermented garlic, and you get your fermented garlic and you just pound it, and you add that through your soft, whatever type of nuts or that you've used. Now do be aware, if you're on a gut healing program, not to overuse nuts. So I mean, don't have too much of coconuts or too much, you know, tiger nuts are good, but do mix it up and have a variety. Nuts can be, especially things like almonds, I mean, people overuse them. They go gluten-free and they cut out dairy, but they replace it with so much of almonds. Almonds can be very problematic, especially if you're using a lot of almond flour. So I've had a lot of people who have come to me over the years, and they've just gone backwards. They haven't really, their health hasn't improved because they're just using too much. You know, variety is the spice of life. Not too much in almond flour especially, it can be very hard on your digestion. So that's just my little tip. I can't help myself. I always come in with my little gut tips. So this is with your your pounded garlic, and this is so lovely for a festive. You've got all these in your fridge, and someone pops in, and you just got to put together a little snack on the fly for them, or even a little meal. You know, you've got all this, and it's just so great. That's your little cucumber with your sauerkraut in that we spoke of last week, and then just slice it up. So that's really good. This bread here is from my motherhood bread book, and that's actually a sprouted bread. And I also make one with sauerkraut and one with kimchi too, and we use a lot of veggie pulp and that in there, so if you've got them left over from the juice, but you can just grate your veggies too. So that's what we've got there. So yeah, so that's how you can use your green cheese, your soft cheese. It's named, it depends on where you come in the world. My grandma always called it quark, but I mean, there's many names for it, but it is just like a soft cheese. You can blend it with things like avocado. Here I've blended it with a fermented pesto and a little bit of the garlic as well. So that's how it's coming to there. And you can stuff it when it's at that soft stage. It's great to stuff things with. So, you know, for Christmas, like little sweet peppers, you can just stuff it in the middle. You can make little toadstools with it. I know I'm supposed to be vegan here, but this is, if you eat eggs, they make the best little toadstools, and they're real celebration foods because they're red. You just get a little tomato, like a little egg tomato, and you cut him so he stands up, and you put the little egg on top. So you cut your egg in half and take the yolk out. You have the little white egg sitting there, just like a little toadstool. Actually, the other way around, the egg and then the tomato on top. So you cut the tomato and sit him half of him and seed him and put him on top of the white of the boiled egg, and then get some of your little soft cheese and just put all little spots on top of him like a toadstool. And it's just a wonderful little food that it'll give nice presentation. Very good for the children to eat toadstools, and they'll certainly eat them because they look pretty and they taste good as well. So with that straining of it, you can go further and you can dry it, as I said. So you can dry it out and it'll actually form a skin. And then if you've got a smoker, you can smoke it. That's what I've done here. Now this one was done in a turmeric brine. It was done in a daikon turmeric brine, and it was tiger nuts. Tiger nuts aren't a nut if you're not familiar with them. They're actually a seed, and they love to be fermented, and they're so easy. So yeah, so I had it in the daikon, this is a daikon and leek, and I used the brine of it. It's a really one that I've had for ages, and it was really, really well developed. So it just sat in there, and then I blitzed it all together, and I went through the same process, and I went right to the hanging stage with this one. So you'll see that it has coloured, and that's a tiger nut, so the colour has come from the turmeric that was in there. And then I've put it through the smoker, and so then when it's gone through the smoker, it's got that beautiful smoked taste. All this that I've got sprinkled on top here is sumac, which I find wonderful. It's a wonderful little herb, and it's good on your digestion too. And it's got like just a nice little mild, almost like a lemony flavour, and it just goes so perfect with them. On top of the garlic, soft cheese or green cheese or quark or whatever you want to call it from the cheese machine. On top of there is crushed nigella. So that's just like little nigella seeds, but I've crushed them, so they're just like your little black seeds. So that's nice to put on there as well. So that's gone there. The traditional way of doing this is just like the Greek yogurt that they made, and they would serve it with fruit. So you can do that. You can use it, leave it soft, and serve it with your fruit. It's a lovely side for a festive breakfast. And with this, I've put some the blueberries there. The blueberries that we made actually last week was sauerkraut the week before, wasn't it? But the blueberries were infused in apple cider vinegar, and that's in there. And it's even got the shrub that's dripped over the top, and some honey garlic. So there's many things that you can do to serve it. One of the nice ways of serving your cheese, that before you've gone, if you don't want to go to the drying and smoking and all that stage, you can just use it as your soft cheese. It has so many uses. You can use it for as an icing, as a frosting on cakes, and add some cacao powder for you can just pop it on top of your little cake, or use it as a side to many desserts. This way, this is one of my favourite ways of using the soft cheese, is just to put it into zucchini zoodles. So these are just put through a spiralizer, and it has some fermented tomato salsa put through there, and some fresh ingredients as well to give it a bit of nice crunch. And then the cheese is put through there. And you could mash an avocado through there too if you wanted to, if you found the taste was a little bit sour, but my taste buds don't. But that's a lovely little festive dish, and it looks pretty, and you can put all your festive colours in there. And of course, like when you've got a bottle of salsa in the fridge and you've got some cheese, you can always put it together. It won't hold a high heat. That's the only thing with it. And of course, we don't want to kill all the good bacteria, but sometimes we use certain things to cook with for a reason. And with these cheeses, you can cook with them, but not to put onto heat. With this sense, that crust there, very importantly, that actually has got coconut in there. So this is vegan. Look at that. The smell of that. I can tell you the taste is beautiful. It's dairy-free and gluten-free and doesn't have any butter. So you say, well, how do you make beautiful pastry like that without any butter? So when you're making that first stage, when you strain it, you can go on further and you can make a sour cream. So we've made a sour coconut cream. And if you make pastry, sour cream's always lovely to put in there. So it's got the coconut. Instead of butter, we've put coconut oil. So that's a base of the flour, and that is quinoa, tiger nut, and a little tiny bit of my green banana flour. And I don't normally put the green banana flour, but that one did. And it had a little bit of hemp in there too. That's the colour on there. And so then I've put that one into the oven, not the cheese into the oven, because it doesn't have that, it'll just destroy on you, it won't melt, that's the only thing with it. So in there I've got my asparagus, and I've got my sweet red pepper, and underneath I've got some pesto, so that's just gone in there. And then as it's come out, I then add the cheese. So that's a lovely, I wish you could taste it, because it's just beautiful. You know what we're having for dinner. So when you form them into your little balls, it'll keep in the fridge for a good week. But if you want it to keep longer, you can store it the traditional way, and that's in with olive oil. So that one's been made into with olive oil. Now that there is served with a sour cherry fermented relish, which is just a beautiful marriage with your cheese. And you can also do it like a cranberry relish as well, which is one that we have in our Christmas book, and that's your cranberry relish. But that there is the sour cherry relish. And with a relish, you combine it with a fermented pickle. And in this case, we've got it combined with the green mango pickle, or you can use like a lime pickle. There's so many things, but the two together and then combine it with your cheese. Oh, it's just beautiful, just beautiful. So I think we've covered it all. We've smoked it, we've dried it, we've had it from the first stage. And now when the coconut one comes out, because of its fat count content, when you first bring it out like that, and you're only going to use it like that, it can be a little bit liquid, but it firms up. So then you go from that stage and strain it to get it to that stage, and that's your soft that's coming out of the cheese machine, and that has just so many uses as it is. But if you want to make it firmer again, well, that's when you start drying, smoking, hanging, and making it a hard cheese. But there's no need to go through all those steps. You can just do that very, very first step. If you're not familiar with where you get these little grains from, you can pick them up on places like eBay. Anybody in your local community will certainly share them with you, because they reproduce all the time. And so you need to get new homes for them or do things with them. But so on eBay, you'll see people there have got high ratings, and that some people are doing it there all the time. So that's where you can pick them up, and they're your perfect cheese base, your perfect culture you'll see a lot of people when they're sharing, making vegan cheeses and vegetarian cheeses, and they don't use this, and they pop in synthetic like probiotic powders and capsules and things like that. To me, that's making a very beautiful food into a processed food. And it just doesn't gel in my kitchen, but you know, it certainly does all work. Now, I've got these all in my cheese book, step by step with what you need in there. I would love you to come here and be at my communal table so I could share my lovely little tarts with you tonight, because that's going to be our dinner. We've got a nice little warm one there in the oven, but you can't smell it, but oh, the smell is beautiful. And of course, if you were here, we would show you how you can bring in perfect marriages of things like watermelon rind pickles. They're beautiful on a cheese platter. You can see how you can make a lovely cheese platter with, you know, fresh figs, and you just bring in all fresh and fermented, and you can add so many things. Like here we've got pickled onions, and that's your golden shallot and your turmeric brine, and that's just beautiful on a cheese platter. There's just so much that you can put in there. Yeah, there's just fermented flowers. These little fermented edible flowers, they're just a lovely little pickly treat. So the idea is you can pick up all little bits of fresh and fermented and cheese. And of course you can add some nice bread. You know, if you've got a nice baguette or something and you just slice it, you've got a lovely, lovely snack. As I said, I would love you to come to my table, but if you can't come to my table, you can join me in my book club. The Gut Book Club is only $7 a month. It's for like the price of less than a coffee, and that's what we do. We get together, we make things, we read a book each month. I've got the Bacterial Beauty book already loaded onto there, and as well the Skinny Gut is already on there if you're wanting to reduce your size, but it's also good for anyone that wants to do the reverse. It's just gut healing. But the Bacterial Beauty book is very important in what we're doing now, because this is the most perfect. You can make products with this, and I can tell you it is just so beautiful on your skin. It is just wonderful. I have little recipes for them, and as a moisturizer, you will not get a better moisturizer than the coconut one. And I've got we add little ingredients to it, and oh, it's just so beautiful on your face. It's just so lovely. The kefir, it has AHAs, which are alpha hydroxy acid, and that's what's in all the very expensive skincare ingredients. So I'll see you soon, and we'll talk soon. Happy cheese making.